Hi, I'm Dan from Just Records, and this is Mixdown Mondays. This week, we're going to do a shootout between a plugin and a piece of analog gear. It's going to be between the LA2A plugin by Universal Audio versus the Warm Audio WA2A LA2A clone. What we're going to be listening for are some of the differences in the characteristics of these sounds. They're both a compressor. You find it on vocal chains, you find it on bass, guitar chains. It's a fabulous compressor, but it has its own characteristics. And we're just going to take a listen at what the difference is between the plugin versus the actual piece of analog gear. Okay, for today's session, we're going to be using Austin Kerr's Roots. Now, this is an unfinished track. We are currently in the mixing process, and we are still adding instruments to this track. So we're going to exclusively be looking at the vocal take only. While there will be drums and guitar on here, this is what we're focusing on. So what I have are two different vocal takes. I have the vocal take that we did all in the box. Then we have the same vocal take that's been processed using the WA2A analog compressor. So we have the in-the-box version, out-of-the-box version. Now, to be completely transparent, we have added an EQ to both tracks, and the signal chain is as follows. We have the Pultec EQ, the LA2A, and the 1176 finishing it off. And I'll go into those reasons in a moment. So it's essentially the same setup. Just one is using an analog LA2A clone, and the other one's using an LA2A plugin. Let's have a listen to the in-the-box vocal take first.
And it's down in Sailor playing old school songs, yeah. Stone howling at the moon. Blame it on the grind for that piece of pie. Blame all of my roots.
All right, so that's using the LA2A and the 1176 plugins. Now, I wish I had a 1176 hardware, but we're going to be using the plugin as well for that too. But let's have another listen, see what it's doing.
And it's down in Sailor playing old school songs, yeah. Stone howling at the moon. Blame it on the grind for that piece of pie. Blame all of my roots.
Now, like I said, we have the very same vocal take here, but instead of using a plugin like this LA2A by Universal Audio, we used a WA2A by Warm Audio. We still have the Pultec EQ on that signal, and we are using the 1176 after the WA2A. And here's what that take sounds like.
And it's down in Sailor playing old school songs, yeah. Stone howling at the moon. Blame it on the grind for that piece of pie. Blame all of my roots.
Now, they're very close. Let's just do a quick A-B.
And it's down in Sailor playing old school songs, yeah. Stone howling at the moon. Blame it on the grind for that piece of pie. Blame all of my roots. And it's down in Sailor playing old school songs, yeah. Stone howling at the moon. Blame it on the grind for that piece of pie. Blame all of my roots.
Now, it's very subtle. The plugins do such a great job of making it sound exactly like the piece of analog gear. But here's where it really comes in handy. Now, let's take off the 1176 on both of these and hear the differences. So this is going to be the in-the-box take.
Well, I should have known better, but I still can't set that bottle back down.
And then we have the processed with analog.
Well, I should have known better, but I still can't set that bottle back down.
All I did was take off the 1176. Now, you can definitely hear there's a difference between these two. There's a higher amplitude out of this out-of-the-box processed audio. You can even see it in the waveform. I mean, they are set at the exact same volumes. They're negative 4.6 dB. And here they are again.
I should have known better, but I still can't set that bottle back down. Well, I should have known better, but I still can't set that bottle back down. Well,
So this is where the 1176 comes in handy. I don't know if you've picked up on this, but there's a nice little peak in this transient here where he says, "Well, I should have known better," but we want to duck that back down because it's just too much. It's a too much of a peak there. So let's take a look at what the in the box is doing.
well, I should have known better, but I still can't set that bottle back down.
Now, the out of the box processed audio has a lot more emphasis on that transient. So let's see what the 1176 is processing there.
Well, I should have known better, but I still can't set that bottle back down.
It's really squashing that transient. It's just smacking it right in the face. These are set to the exact same. Oh, there's a slight difference in output or input, excuse me. There's a slight difference in input, but they are essentially set to the exact same. Let's fix that. Let's make them exactly the same. All right, now they're exactly the same. So let's give that a quick listen to. In the box first.
Well, I should have known better, but I still can't set that bottle back down.
And the out.
Well, I should have known better, but I still can't set that bottle back down.
Now, already I can definitely hear a difference between those two. The in the box still sounds great, and the plugin's doing its job, but there's more texture, there's more color that's been added by using the analog piece of Warm Audio, and just adding that in gives it just a little bit more character. Now, is it worth it to spend, let's say, $800, I believe is what the Warm Audio comes in at, or $899, but $900 to get that piece of analog gear versus, let's say, a plugin that costs anywhere between $150 or $200 for the plugin? I don't know that you're going to have to justify that to yourself, whether or not the outboard gear is worth it to replace the in the box, but it's so close. I was kind of blown away by how close it was, and it's nice to know that it's not necessary to have all of that outboard gear to get a solid mix. You can also see how the tracks are different after one's been processed through the analog gear versus what's been in the box the whole time.
And it's down in the cellar playing old school songs, yeah. Stone howling at the moon. And it's down in the cellar playing old school songs, yeah. Stone howling at the moon.
What differences could you notice? Could you hear that the analog gear adds a characteristic of coloration to the sound, whether it's a little bit more richness or a little bit more depth, or it just processes the audio slightly different than a piece of software. Now, the software is so close that it's really not necessarily worth it to have to worry about stocking your studio with a bunch of expensive analog gear where you can actually get that sound from a plugin itself. You don't necessarily need to spend thousands of dollars on plugins either. It's more important that you know how to use them. I hope that this video has been helpful, and thank you for watching Mixdown Mondays.